Well, let's see if I remember how to do this. Good evening, all. With any luck, my streaming setup still works. It's been forever since I did a live show, and I had some work to do on the bench tonight. I've been in quadcopter world the last couple of days since I got home from pretty long business trip, or pretty far business trip over to the EU, and I really want to get this quad back up and going, which is basically a wreck on the bench. And well, I've been flying this one. This is my 215 Pro. I love this quad, but it is not the Red October build that you guys built up with me live together on live shows last summer. So I think it's time we get this fixed up. What ended up happening... Beginner's Tech is here. Okay, we are live. Thank you, Beginner's Tech. Well, apparently we can do a live show. So I think tonight the idea is, well, I've hacked Red October here apart and removed the defective flight control. This is the Betaflight F3 flight control. It only lasted a very short time, and they've discontinued these because they actually were failing like crazy. So unfortunately, that flight controller did not work out at all. So I've hacked it out of there. And hopefully we have enough slack in some of the wires to make this work again. Pretty sure it shouldn't be a problem. I think what we're going to do is we're going to swap out the video transmitter as well and put something much more fun in here. I have a new AKK F3 video transmitter, which is a Betaflight compatible, smaller. Check this out. This thing is tiny and 600 milliwatt and capable of adjusting through Betaflight through my goggles. So kind of a neat little TX. You're going to see a video on all the AKK stuff coming up, but we're going to ditch this kind of no-name brand. This is the AOM Way one, and this no-name brand antenna, which feels not so good. It actually feels like there's something going on in that connection in there. I can actually feel something not so good. Anyway, let's ditch it. But the fun of quad building, this is the challenge, and this is why I thought I would stream it. When you got a quad and you want to retrofit out some new components, it's daunting, and I'll admit it's daunting for me. So what I have is the DYS F4 Pro flight control board to install in this. This was actually sent to me by Rotor Riot as a replacement for the... Oof, my computer just froze up. Zach's here. Cheers. Yeah, AKK is Banggood and Amazon. The price is higher, but shipping faster. Yeah, so you guys are actually, again, to jump back to the AKK stuff, you're going to see a dedicated video. I just finished editing it tonight of all of the AKK components that were sent to me recently by them. But the reason they sent me these components is because I was already buying from them, and I was sending them crazy good positive feedback, because the price of this stuff, like, they come in nice Apple boxes, Apple style boxes, and they just work. I've never had an issue with their components, and I've had it on many quads. So anyway, that's a sneak peek. But the F4 Pro, this I'll admit is daunting. So what I did before the live show is I went through the powers of the Googles to figure out how the heck am I going to hook this up. And I figured out some of the connections, but then you have to figure out what receiver you're going to use. And originally I had this on a Fly Sky system, and I'm moving it to an FR Sky system. I'm finally leaping into the 2000s and moving everything over to FR Sky. So I'm using the XSR full telemetry receiver, which is just bloody awesome. But to use S-Bus on this is not as easy as you'd think, and the telemetry function seems to be reversed. I'm not even going to get into that right now because I don't know how it's going to work. And then the AKK unit I need to use smart audio out to adjust the video transmitter. So long story short, I think I have figured out the connections I need to use. They give you this tiny little nice little diagram, but the powers of Google are pretty good. And I think I've got it figured out. I think we need to use RX6, which is totally counterintuitive for the VTX smart audio. I would have thought it would be TX6 for the UART, but I was wrong, or maybe I was wrong. And then the connections for our S bus for our receiver. And I think maybe we can make this thing work. And I have no idea where this is going to end up, to be honest. But for starters, I don't think we need props on here. So maybe we can take these off and I can catch up with you guys in the chat. And we'll go ahead and we're going to start the build on this quadcopter, or the rebuild, the rebirth of this. I really like this quad. I'm really proud of how the frame turned out, and it flew amazing, as I kind of expected it would. But unfortunately, due to the flight control failing, well, now it's time for an upgrade, which is maybe going to be a bit of a blessing in disguise, so to speak. Because we're going to have an FrSky upgrade. We're going to have a video transmitter upgrade that I don't need to press buttons if I need to change channels. I can do it through my transmitter and my goggles. And we're going to have full telemetry, maybe. If nothing else, we're going to have RSSI and indication of signal lost right through our Tyrannus radio, which this quad does not have. This X215 Pro uses a cheaper FrSky receiver, and I do have RSSI in my display now, which is the relative signal strength indication, but I didn't even get that out of the box. I had to figure out how to flash this receiver, and doing it inside the quad, I made some video coverage. I came up with a cheat. I unplugged it right from the flight control, and I was able to flash the receiver while it was still in the quad with a few pins, which was not something I've ever seen on any YouTube video yet. So I did take the footage. I'm not sure whether I'll publish it and try and make it a video, but I kind of think I should, because it took me a long time to figure that out, that you can actually output the signal strength on an aux channel and get it back to your goggles without having a telemetry receiver installed, which if you're not familiar, the telemetry sends everything back down. Oh, I don't even know. We'll see how this goes. Price is still great for the hobby. Zach says that's a pretty quad thing, Zach. I really do love this thing. That's the one that I frame dipped last summer, and I did do a video on the channel. I did spray paint into a bucket and then did a dip and then clear coated it, and man, I love it. This is a fun little freestyle quad, but we'll see. Yeah, Zach, he paints it neon paint so you can find them. Absolutely. So actually, another tasty tidbit. So what happened, you guys will see this probably about a month from now when I finally get around to finishing the review video on this. I took this out and I've been beating the hell out of it. And this is an awesome quad, by the way, guys. This is, you can buy it from GearBest or Banggood. I think it was it GearBest? Oh, geez, I don't even want to quote that. Somebody sent me this a long time ago and I did the initial review. But first crash, two weekends ago, I went into a tree and it was a minor crash and I couldn't figure out. I put the beeper on, nothing happened. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I lost the battery. And but I could see in my goggles that I still had video, and I didn't think anything of it. So I went and picked up the quad and I got it back, and I saw some random wires hanging out of the back. That was where the LED and beeper used to be, and it had completely been lost in the very first crash of this quad. So what I did is I figured out the wiring and added my own beeper back in, and we're good to go. But the beeper was would have been really handy to find the quad. So long story short, what I did add, if you guys haven't seen one of these, This is the Locator Lite. You can buy it on Amazon. I have it in my recommended products in the store down below. This is a 2.4 gig Locator Beacon, and I change the batteries in these twice a year. And if all else fails and the quad is depowered, you use the transmitter that you hold in your hand to arm the beeper, and then it has a locational beacon, a locational Yagi style antenna where I can find out where the quad is, even if it's completely depowered. And I did have to use that the other day where the battery became disconnected, and found the quad. Just a few minutes. There's a demo on my channel from last 2 summers ago where I tested these out. They are expensive, about $100, but you get 2 tags, 2 locator tags. I have one on my Phantom and one on whatever quad I'm flying. I just hook it around the battery strap with a zip tie, and that way you have your beeper. You have the ESCs that beep. I set them to 2 minutes. So in the firmware for the speed controls, you can set the motors to beep at whatever interval. I set them to 2 minutes. If the battery becomes disconnected, this is your backup. Anyway, didn't get anything done here, but, well, hello, someone subscribed. Apparently the sub alert is working. Very cool. All right, where do we start? We have the Runcam still on here. I think what we should start with is trying to figure out some of the video systems first. What do you guys think? This is a lot harder now that everything's in place, and it's going to be less pretty than when I initially assembled it. Where's the arrow on this board? Let's get you guys closer where you can actually see what's going on. There should be an arrow on the flight control pointing forward somewhere, and I'm too blind to see it, but it really doesn't matter. What actually, button side will be up. Button side up. Oof. Why do they have that header down? Let's make sure the header is going to clear the frame first and see if we've got to get that header off of there, because if that header gets into the carbon of the frame, we're in trouble. And it's fine. Lots of room down there. We're good. So button side up, because you always want to be able to press the reset button. Hopefully we don't need it much, but which way is supposed to be forward? If all else fails, check the instructions again. It doesn't matter because we can always change this in the software. What kind of matters more is having the USB where we can easily get at it. So I'm thinking I like USB out the right side of my quads, but is that going to be a pain for the video? I forgot about this. This is one of the less fun things of quad building. Half of the time is just spent, honestly, 3/4 of the time is just spent laying it out so we know where to put things. Maybe I'll go up to a little wider until we sort it out. So this is the way it is. That side is going to be our video. This side is our receiver. That's might work, but where are the motors? Well, I guess it matters which way the motors are. So 4 should be forward. Jeez, it's been a while since I've done this. S3 and S1. Just looking off camera to remind myself how Betaflight lays out the motors. 3 and 1 should be the back of the quad. How is that even possible? Maybe this isn't the best choice to live stream. 3 and 1, so that would have to be yonder way. So we need that coming out the left side of the quad. That's no big deal. 3 and 1. So let me find my notes. Front 3 should be back left, and it is. 1 off camera. 1 should be back right. 2 should be front right. And it is, so this is the way we want our board. Regardless of where we put our video and stuff, let's follow the motors. That makes sense? Yeah, maybe. Catch up with you guys. Battery and back. Yeah, thanks. Actually, that would have been... in this case, it really doesn't matter where we put the battery, but you're right. It does matter where we put the motors, unless we're going to get kind of funky with routing the wires underneath. But what I'm thinking to test this, I think we'll just do the video connections first. Or should we do the receiver first? We could get the receiver up and bound. We could do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. Maybe. I hope the heck that I've had half of this repaired or prepared beforehand. Maybe not. All right. One of these wires we'll clean up things after. One of them we're not going to need. But let's find the notes. Yellow, according to this, will go to RX3. So we're going to need yellow. Let's get the strippers. Let's get some soldering irons warming up. These are already actually stripped. Oh, that's good. Well, we just have to tin them. Let's just tin them then. I apologize if this is kind of fragmented, guys. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. It's been a long while. What's it been? Over a month? I think it's been over a month. Way too long. I had enough trouble just getting the streaming PC up and running because, of course, it decided to do all kinds of silly updates and slow down the works. Those wires are actually already pre-tinned. Let's go right to it. Let's just go down through. RX yellow goes to RX3. Which one is RX3? Jeez. Please don't give me a better diagram. That would have been so much easier. RX3, second from the buzzer. We got inverted. Video on the far side. That looks better. Button there. Ground and battery. RX6, TX6. V out, V in. Oof. RX3, which is third, fourth down. Ground, positive 5 volt LED. TX3, but I wanted RX3, which is the next one right below it. I guarantee I'm going to get this wrong, but we're going to find out. Why couldn't you just give me something better? 3 pads, buzzer, RX3. RX yellow goes to RX3. All right, yeah, double checked and everything. We're gonna say I got it right. So this will be our S-bus connection, or our telemetry connection, if we choose to use it. The next one we're gonna solder will be our S-bus connection, with any luck. Holy smokes, that wire just came right through there. This is not going to work. Let's get the quad out of here. Jesus. Of course. Maybe, just maybe, we're going to try. We are... A lot of people just put a dab of solder. A lot of people just put a dab of solder and just tack it onto the top. I'm not a big fan of doing that. I would rather put it through. But in this case, I can see why people do it. So it's second, and it's right where we had it. Second up, Because we got buzzer. Can we... There. Alright, that'll do. That will do. Am I on camera? Not quite. It'd be better if I did this under the microscope. I'll maybe give you a view under the microscope after we're done. Alright. I'll give you a view under the microscope right now. Okay. If we did anything half correct, that should be second up from that pad set, should be the right wire with any luck. And we got a good little solder joint. I think that'll work. With any luck, perhaps. We'll double check. It's the RX3, and then S-Bus should be our next one. So S-Bus, that's where we talk to the flight control, and S-Bus should be the white wire. We're going to put it through right next to us. And I'm not going to get crazy with weather sealing this or anything until we run it through a functional test, which I think we'll do before we do all the speed controls and the rest of our high current connections. But we'll see how it goes. Ooh, God, that's ugly. Eek. That looks better. There we go. Under the microscope. Hello. Out of focus, but there you go. 2 connections through right next to the header rail. With any luck, that's the right spot. And yes, right next to it should only be our beeper, which we could put that in now if we wanted, but I don't think we need it. So what we'll do is we'll do our power and ground to the receiver. Go back to a better overhead shot for you guys. Unexpected maker. Yay for streaming. Cheers, unexpected maker. Nice job, thank you. All right, so all we need now to make the receiver work, to talk, now that we have S-Bus, which is a UART, and then our telemetry is power and ground, which, with any luck, we can figure out which ones they are. They should be right up here on the ends, which I know you can't see worth beans, but this might help. Let's put it the right way. 3 pads, ground. So the first 2 should be ground. The next 2 should be positive, in theory. But we're gonna find out. Let's see if we can just stuff them both through at once and solder them both through. And the green we won't be using for this setup, and I'll remove it. I'll go ahead and yank that out after we've tested everything. The green should be for PPM, which we're not going to use on this flight control, and hopefully never use again. And that's not going to stay through, so let's just go ahead. After I get a bit of practice back at live streaming again, maybe we'll do this under the microscope next time, but for now, this will do, and I'll just update you through the microscope. And we successfully closed the hole next to it. Brilliant, but that's okay. We'll dogleg this one because we will not need... Actually, here, the other iron should be warmed up now. I think I'll go ahead and pull that back out. Let's see if my broken solder sucker is working today. It's seen better days. Yep, good. I pulled it back out. Check that out. Under the top. Vince Martinez has subscribed. Cheers, Vince, if you're watching right now. Glad to have you. Okay, let's go. Forget the green. We're going red. We're going to put it into the hole that I just fixed right beside the black. And that will give us our VREF to our receiver. With any luck, if I don't screw it up. we're good to go. Do, 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 do. Perfect. Absolutely good enough. We got some wires, out of focus wires. There we go. Good enough. Not the best solder joints, but pretty good. Pretty good. So that should allow our flight control to feed our receiver. The wires are going to be way longer than what we need them to be, but I can manage that. These are really nice small silicone wires. And what I might do after I get this all working, and what I did on this quad initially was to go ahead and shorten all these up. Once I had bench tested everything, I actually desoldered them one by one and shortened them up to fit the quad. The other option is you can stuff things away, but just make sure that you twist them at the appropriate twist per inch, so that you reject interference. One of these lines, actually both are a UART, particularly S-Bus, and it's kind of sensitive to noise, so you can get a lot of noise introduced if you don't at least twist the signal and ground. When you twist the power in there and another signal wire, it's not the best thing to do, but it's better to just shorten them up, twist the signal and the ground together, and do it the right way. But yeah, so be it. Okay, back to where we were. We got a receiver. After all that yakking, we got a receiver. And we need a video transmitter next, I think, before we do. Then we're also going to, actually, we could do this right now. We could do our main power lead to the board. So this will bring our lithium polymer battery in, and it goes through. If you look on the back side here, you can see there's not on the back side, it's on that side. That massive resistor right there, that's our current sense resistor. That's what allows us to actually monitor our current going through all of our motors, which is going to be in excess of 100 amps on this quad. It'll be in the neighborhood anywhere between 80 and 110 amps, depending on what props I have on it. It drew about 85 steady with the dowel props before. Now the question is, do we need more wire or less? Let's just use this. We can always change it out after. Let's solder this on now. It'll be all right. So this will be our high current in here. Nothing on the bottom side, so we're gonna have to do it right here. These wires are already tinned because they're already on the last flight control. We'll use my high wattage iron. Melt my camera, perhaps. And let's get some bigger solder. Make a mess. Actually, I'm just about out of solder. Look at that. All my big solder anyway. This is a Nextech branded standard rosin core. This is the stuff you used to get at Radio Shack. Man, I love this stuff. What size is it? 1.6 millimeter. It is great for these large items. And this is going to be a heavy duty solder job here. Oh, actually, it's not that bad. On the Betaflight F3 board, it was actually quite difficult to solder because the ground plane was absolutely massive. This one's not so bad. I'm not even going to try and bring the microscope out. I was going to try and bring it out for you, but it's kind of buried. And let's go ahead and tin these a little bit more. And we'll get those on there. That way we can power the board and see if our video transmitter and everything power up. Let that really soak through. It's a heavy wire. Make sure any of the gookies that ended up in there, we get them out. That silicone's actually retreating a little bit, but it's fine. I had waterproofed the existing board before, and it ends up usually creating some contaminants and stuff in there, and you want to make sure that you get all of that crap out of there. I was going to use a third hand. Everything takes 10 times longer when you're doing it on camera, but that's okay. We'll just go ahead and use some sticky goo instead. Some of this poster adhesive. A lot of the Europeans call it blue tack. We just buy it here as like poster adhesive. Alright. Let's see if we can do this under the camera. Be positive. Far side. Okie dokie. Tin or iron. Off camera. I don't have the fume extractor running. Oopsie daisy. And we'll go ahead and bring that in. Hopefully we get a nice pretty joint out of it. That's not too bad. It got a little bit opaque. I doubt you can even pick that up on the C920, but I'll show you under the microscope momentarily. It's hard to solder these big heavy joints to get them. Remember, this is going to be flowing in excess of 100 amps. So you want to make sure it is well and truly a good joint. It should be shiny, and it should be well flowed. And actually, that's not horrible. That's not horrible. It's not my best work, but in this case for now, yeah, it'll do. That's definitely not my best work, but I might touch that up after. I probably will. I'm kind of picky about such things, but that's well and truly capable. I think we're good. We're still streaming. Yep. I think we're good. What's everybody else building tonight? I haven't caught up with you guys in a long time, and I apologize for that, but it's just been crazy. All right, let's get some. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to touch those up anyway. I just remembered, because I'm gonna have to solder this guy on there. I'm gonna put a big filter cap across those connections, and we'll do it after. So what I'll do is I'll straighten those up a little bit, and I'll tack this guy on and just bring him out with the leads, and that will give us our primary filter cap, which they provided a 1000 mic 25 volt, which Chong brand. Yeah, it'll work. I think I have some better ones. I think, what did I use last time? I used 1000 mic 25 volts. Same deal. Actually, heck, it's the same brand. It's the Chong X brand. Huh, what do you know? That's what I put on there, except this is out of my own stock that I added. It didn't come with flight control. So, we'll add that on after. Okay. We have... Should we venture to try it? Do I have a LiPo down here? I don't. Crap. I didn't think of that before I started. Actually, I have 3 cells. I have some 3-cell batteries. Somebody shout out if you think we shouldn't try this, if there's something I'm missing, but methinks... Oh, crud. Do I have anything with an XT60 down here? They're all Deans. I don't. Alright, doesn't matter. Normally I would test as we moved along, but I think we can go ahead and put the AKK video transmitter on. I think. Yule says it looks nice. Well, good. Excellent. So we're going to try... Check out this video transmitter. I really like this. I like these MMCX connectors that are on these now. Really sturdy antenna connection with an SMA that we should be able to run up through the back of the quad and have the antenna mount vertically while the pigtail comes... Well, the pigtail does not come where I need it to be. We're going to have to figure that out too. Half of the battle again is figuring out where we're going to put things. We may have a problem with the radius of that antenna connection. We may need to get creative and put the video transmitter right at the back, but that's not a concern right now because we'll leave the wires quite long, I do believe. Oh, wonderful. Why do they come with so many connections? What were we up against here? We only needed... We should have video and all the good stuff. Oh, let's see our sky. Alright. There we go. Perfect. We have the connections for this. So with any luck, I've figured out the UART, the flight control UART. That's the one that we care about, that's going to the FC, and power and ground should be the end wire, so it should be green. And then red for 5 volt, black for ground, video input, and then DC 7 to 24 volt, that's our main feed. So the 5 volt over here is out to the camera, which we may or may not use. Oof. And then power and ground. So we need these two first. Let's get those snipped right now before I forget. Before I lose my brain again. These are the ones we need that are going to feed the video transmitter. So we'll go ahead. Oh, how short should we take them? Something reasonable. So we have some wire left over on both of these. We don't need a huge length of wire, so we'll go ahead and snip them both right there. Power and ground. Yeah, we should be in good shape. Smoke stopper. Plug it in, blow it up. Yeah. I do have a smoke stopper around here, but it wouldn't do us any good in this case. Actually, funny enough, when Red October's flight control failed in the first place, believe it or not, is when I was doing deliberate testing with the smoke stopper. And I actually asked the devs of that hardware board, and I said, do you have any recorded failures of that board? Like they had a history of a lot of failures. Basically, they refunded everyone. And I said, do you have a history of it failing under low voltage situations? Because I told them flat out, I'll admit it. When it failed on mine, I was doing an amp draw on the quad through a smoke stopper, which dropped the voltage to, I don't know, let's just say it was like 6 or 5 volts. And they said, funny enough, when they had the failures, it was in low voltage situations, dead packs and stuff, the flight control would just die. I said, well, that gives you an indication of where your system is failing. I don't really care why, because I don't want another one, but FYI. And they were quite appreciative. They were happy I was honest with them. I said, well, I have nothing to lose. Like, that's how it failed, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should be able to run a flight control on a low voltage without it burning it up, because, well, batteries go dead, right? So, okay, green is going to be our UART, and 5 volt cam and ground will leave out, and then is it yellow? Yellow is the middle one, which is our video. Okay. We're going to need that, obviously. We're going to need video. And that will be our video output from our flight control, which is going to be sending our OSD and all that kind of good stuff out. So let's see if we can get this right. Let's see if I can get this right. Live on video without totally screwing it up. Okay, power and ground. These are VBAT, so I marked this somewhere where I learned where VBAT was, I thought. Oh, it doesn't help that they're so tiny. VBAT, ground and BAT are the only terminals right here. That should be ground and bat. Perhaps. Ground and bat. Which way? Bat to the inside. Okay. This should be right. In theory. If the instructions are right, and actually there's a history of the instructions being wrong on this flight control board, but not for powers and grounds. It's wrong for the UARTs in a lot of cases. Okay, there we go. Out of focus as it may be, this should do the trick. Tin those, and you don't have to stuff the wires through like I'm doing. You can. I think there's something to the way people, when they're just setting them on top and tacking them on top, truthfully, it's a lot easier for field servicing, particularly if your wires get yanked out. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. What is going on here? Come on. What is going on? I think the insulation is contaminating it. There, let's try again. I think I had just a little bit of insulation up through the hole. The wire is small enough that the entire insulation can come up through the PCB. I cannot hit it with any more heat than that. That board, what is going on? Let's try. Let me get the good old Q-tip out. Let's try a little bit of cleaning. There's something on there that doesn't want to let it to wick. And if you hit it with too much more heat, you'll end up lifting traces and damaging the board. So we'll just go ahead and hit it with some alcohol. So I think there's some kind of contaminant on there. Or the insulation is still protruding somehow. I don't know how that would be. I can't see it. I could do it under the microscope though. It's really hard when you're working behind a webcam. But not too bad. It's still fun. It's fun to hang out with you guys. Oh, come on. What in the actual... Let's smarten up here, board. It is definitely the insulation. I think somehow some of the silicone melted. There we go. That's more gooder. And it's actually permeating up through. I have never seen this in all my time soldering. Check this out. Let's put it under the microscope and you can actually see this. The wire is actually coming up through. And come on, let's focus. Focus. See the insulation coming up through there? That's crazy. The more I hit it with heat, the more it decides to come up through. Sneaky little bugger. That's alright. Let's fix it right. What do I do with that Q-tip? What did I do with that Q-tip? Let me just catch up on the chat real quick. JD's in the house. Cheers. And sweet video learning. Don't know how much video learning we're doing tonight. It's not too bad. It's always fun to see how this stuff comes together from start to finish, the long version. Unexpected makers off to the races. Cheers. Great video. Yeah, thank you guys. Again, it's not the most enthralling content because it's not edited, but I think it's good to see a little bit of the struggle sometimes. My goal usually with items such as this is to not do harm. Now, these boards are not crazy expensive, but if you get crazy on here and do a solder bridge to one of these passives on the backside or get rammy with things and lift traces off the board, well, then you're sunk if you're like me and order this stuff slow boated. Like this was a month to come in, this flight control. Now, obviously, you guys know me. I ordered 2 of them, but I would rather not use the backup. So the goal is to not wreck anything if we can help it. And at the same time, hopefully turn out a quality product at the end of the night. Something that's going to work. And let's go ahead and twist this power and ground. This is our, what are we dealing? Oh, this is our VBAT. So the more we keep noise rejected from our battery supply, this is a filtered supply, but if we keep these twisted pair, the power and ground, we're going to reject the noise by inducing noise equally into these two wires. And any runs that you have of just one wire and not the other is an opportunity for noise to find its way in. And this is the feed for our video system, which is pretty much susceptible to noise on the best of days. We want to do everything we can do to keep the noise out of the video system, because the key to having a half-decent quad experience is having good video. And I'm just gonna... There we go. We got it that time. After all that, we finally got one wire soldered. All right, we've got power and ground to our video system. What else do we need? I'll catch up with you guys real quick. Is it JDS? Loves this stuff. Cheers, JDS. You're going to use a filter cap on main power? Yep, I showed it just a short time ago. We're going to put a 1000 mic 25 volt across those connections on the XT60 afterwards. I'm not going to do that till I get everything tested, because I actually wasn't too happy with that solder there. And I'll just add it on after. No problem. Okay, video connections. We need VTX Smart Audio. Oh God, I didn't label the color. Why didn't I do that? What color is VTX Smart Audio? Well, it's not going to be red. It's not going to be black. It's not going to be yellow, because yellow is going to be video. We're going to need yellow, and I bet you it's green. I bet you we already covered that. FC UART. That is the furthest right, which is indeed green. So we need green and yellow. We don't need this black and red just yet. We'll use those to feed the camera if we see fit. I haven't decided yet. What we can do is we can feed the camera from the flight controller, or we can feed the camera from the video transmitter. And honestly, I give it 50-50, which way is better. I've done them both ways. I've had great success from using the video transmitter as a power supply for the camera, but I've also been burned by it. I've also had great success with using the flight control to supply filtered power for the camera. And in the case of the, what was it, the X220 that I built live last summer, I got burned bad. I had no end of noise out of that. What I ended up doing is had to do filtering and do twisted pairs all over the place, and I did get rid of it, but I suspect a lot of it was coming through the flight control power supply. I really do, but I can't prove it. I didn't put it on the scope, so I should have. Okay, backside. Let's get back to backside. Power and ground. That's VBAT, power and ground are there. And then we have RX6 and TX6. RX6 is the one I think we want for our... Oh, jeez. RX6 is indeed what we want for smart audio. So RX6 is the furthest outboard second to ground. So right next to the ground, we want to put our smart audio. This is the wire that will allow us to change our VTX settings through Betaflight, if Eric hooks it up right and doesn't screw it all up. Truthfully, I have never scratch built a quad having VTX controls through Betaflight. I'm looking forward to this. Okay, now we need video. This is going to be video out, going outbound to the video transmitter, which is supposedly the next wire in line, with any luck. And according to that, it is. We'll set it in. Grab this soldering iron, give it a little tin. I switch soldering irons a lot in case you guys don't notice, because I do have my favorites for certain things. Alright, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Go into the microscope real quick. Next time I'll try and do more of this under the microscope, guys, but truthfully it's been too long since I've done a live show, and I didn't want to be fighting with the microscope the entire live show. So there we go. We have video, the yellow, smart audio, the green, power, and ground. And that ground is a big floppy ugly mess, but it is not bridged to the power because of the flux, and we are good. I think we're in good shape. What do you guys think? Did I miss anything? Is there something obvious that's going to let the smoke out? I don't think so. I think we're pretty good. Other than these stray connections that we're going to have to sort out, what we're going to do with the camera power, and I can do that after, we can just go ahead and twist those together and use a little bit of this wonderful stuff us Canucks call hockey tape, just because it doesn't leave a residue. Tasty tidbit. If you have, it sounds silly, but electrical tape is a wonderful thing, except the adhesive on it is quite strong and it leaves a lot of residue behind, whereas, believe it or not, good old transparent hockey tape is actually designed to leave no residue on anything. It's designed to peel cleanly, and it works great if you just want to set something like low voltage stuff. Just set it aside and keep it kind of safe for a little while, but not leave a bunch of goobers all over it. It sounds silly, but I use hockey tape a lot. I use it for holding down Mobius cameras on my fixed wing aircraft as well. Works great for that. You can like just stick a Mobius or a Runcam on any plane wherever you want for the day, and this stuff, well, it works for NHL hockey players to hold their pads in place, and it's good enough for a couple hours and removes nice and clean and doesn't rip your foam if you're attaching something to a foam aircraft. It works bloody great. I wish I had figured that out many moons ago. Okay, I think we're in good shape. We have a VTX. Most importantly, don't plug this in without something on the end of it. Somewhere on this mess of a workbench is the antenna connection. Right here. We will plug in the adapter, which is not good enough. You still need an antenna on it. Don't power up without the antenna, because this thing may be set for 600 milliwatts. And even if we did all of our wiring correctly, that would be the end of it. And it will smoke itself post-haste. Unfortunately, there's almost no protection on these FPV systems for open antenna, which there really can't be. There's no way to protect an RF transmitter from somebody doing something stupid that way, to be honest. But yeah, there we go. Check that out. We've got this is like, here's my finger. This stuff is super tiny. We've got a full telemetry receiver that transmits down, hooked to our flight control, hooked to the power supply, hooked to the video transmitter, and these should all talk together and back and forth without issue on these connections. But I don't have a battery here, so I can't test it live. I'll post on social media if just come over to the Discord, and if I did something wrong, I'll double check everything before I power it up. But if I did something wrong and I let the smoke out, I will tell you guys. But I think we're golden. I think this is going to be a good build, and then we can start to kind of set things into the quadcopter. And then, like I said, I'll probably end up shortening these wires. Oh, I'm a little torn. I have no experience with this flight control, so I might just kind of tuck some of these wires away, even though it's an ugly way to do it, but then it makes it much more serviceable if the flight control dies right away, like the Betaflight one did. But yeah, and then all we have to do is hook up our speed control wires, which is really easy. This looks like a rat's nest, but if you're not familiar, you just have a signal and a ground wire to each speed control, and a power and a ground for the high current connections. And each one's going to draw about 20 amps. ish, and we're done. Other than hooking up the camera connections, power and ground, like I mentioned earlier, we got to figure out which we're going to use, either from the video transmitter or from the flight control. It's our choice. And then we hook the camera into the video in of the flight control, which allows the camera to send the video here. The flight control will add the on-screen display of all of our telemetry, or whatever you want to know, your height, your amp draw, your location, if you had GPS, blah, blah, blah. And then it sends it out to the video transmitter. That's it. I'm going to catch up real quick, and then I'm going to call it a night. And not only video, ESC smoothness, absolutely. And Kyor's here. Cheers. Yeah, same here's on Gremlin's hide. Eric, your candidate is showing. Yeah, it tends to do that. All right, guys, I gotta call it there. I'm glad you guys could join me. Hit a thumbs up on this video. It really, really helps the channel. I appreciate you guys dropping by. Sorry I haven't been live streaming lately, but it's just been a little crazy. And I was, like I mentioned, I was in Europe. If you follow me on social media, you've seen my pictures on Instagram. I was in DK and stopped through the Netherlands twice, and yeah, business is business, such is life. But back to normal now. Lots of stuff. Follow me on Patreon. Lots of crazy new projects coming up. I just put the Patreon app on my phone, so I'm gonna try and give the Patreon supporters a little bit more info than what I have lately. Cheers, guys. Have a fantastic night.